3, 2, 1. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something stopping you from taking that next step in your life? Is there something blocking you from being happy? Well, then you should check out BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is an online service that will connect you with one of their professional personal counselors in under 48 hours. Their counselors are specialized in many areas, including stress, anxiety, anger, and depression. You'll be able to schedule weekly video or phone sessions with your counselor in a safe and private online environment. BetterHelp is also more affordable and a more convenient option than the traditional in-person counseling. We here at the 2-on-1 podcast want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/listener. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/listener.
Alex, we're back.
Adam, we are back.
Woo! Wow, you hit me with the Uno reverse there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Daniel's not here today. He's got some stuff going on. He's okay, but we'll see him next episode. But
he's day to day.
He is day to day with gubs going on. I almost said gabagool going on. That doesn't make sense. But...
No, that doesn't.
No, I've never had. Have you ever had gabagool?
Yeah, I have.
What is that actually called? A capicolo?
Yeah.
So is it translated to be called gabagool or what?
No.
What's the thing there?
No. It's just New Jersey Italian.
Oh, how?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, I mean, every time we talk to Mike, it's a different word, right? It's more to tell. It's more to tell, not more to tell.
It
more
sounds,
to tell.
Gabagool is a lot more fun to say than capicola.
Yes, yeah. No, yes, it's easier to say for sure.
Gabagool. Over here. What a great The Sopranos. I may have to watch it just for the gabagool. Mike would love that. Okay, so Alex, we're gonna have a special guest on in a second here. But first we're gonna chat a bit about hockey to open the show. Believe it or not, we're gonna talk about hockey on the hockey podcast. Isn't that really funny?
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think we open the show in a fun little way here. We're gonna talk about the Leafs. Okay.
Awesome.
Because the Habs are finally skating today, and there's a bunch of little medical updates, but they're a bit too monotonous to go through. Looks like they're getting players back, which is hilarious. Finally,
yeah. That's
but first up, yeah. Thank goodness, Jean-Sebastien D got called up. No one else could be. So
who?
Thank goodness.
I have not heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, Jean-Sebastien D. I'm pretty sure the only other contracted players in around are Jean Michak, who obviously is in the OHL. Norlinder, who's been loaned to Sweden, and Caden Gooley,
who's in the OHL or WHL. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But didn't they cease operations? So maybe they could do an emergency call up, but I don't think they want that at all.
Yeah, probably.
But that's Anyway, though, I'm looking at the Leafs. It was an identity game last night. Some would say. Was
it? I'm so confused. Because remember the first time they played Colorado?
They spanked
them. When was it? October? November?
Yeah, they spanked them 8-2 or something.
Yeah, it was 8-3. But remember going into that game, we were talking about how, it was one person in particular who sparked a debate, calling it a must-win game. It was like, it's a real test. I'm like, but is it a real test?
Were the Abs not banged up to start the year?
I believe they were missing a couple players.
They're always hurt.
And now the Leafs are missing a couple players. Mm-hmm. I mean, one big one in Marner. Say what you want about Mitch Marner, but Mitch Marner is part of the core in Toronto. That's a significant piece to not have.
And he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good. I get his playoff performances, but it's the regular season. That's what he's very good.
Some would say he's a nasty player. And
he's pretty good when he's on his game.
And especially against a team like Colorado, which we know are so offensively driven, losing that penalty killer, because everyone forgets he's a big part of that penalty kill, especially with that aggressive style. Marner's great for that kind of stuff. But it was the reason I joke it's identity. It was 4-1. I think it was they went into the second intermission. It was 4-1 4-1 or 4-2?
I will go double check, but it was 4-1 at a point.
Did you see what Milan Lucic did? I think there was a post about it being 4-1, and he just left a comment saying, "I've seen this before."
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. He was on the 2013 or 2012, 2013 Bruins, so totally fair. Totally fair.
Washed up in Calgary.
No, I can't even be mad. Yeah, it was 4-1. It was 4-2 going into the third.
Oh, okay. So, Alex, I don't think it's obviously not acceptable to lose 4-1. Blow a 4-1 lead in overtime. We know that. And I don't think the Leafs give a damn about a pity point. They're not chasing a spot. They're pretty much guarantee the playoff spot already, which is kind of funny to say, but the Atlantic is just such a top heavy division, you could say. Yeah. It's really just Boston, Toronto, the Florida teams, and then it's just, what's going on here? Detroit are on the up, as we know, but still. I thought it was just simply an example of you have really good teams and you have elite contenders. I think right now the Leafs are a really, really good team, but they are, I think if you were doing a tier list, as we love to do on this podcast, I think it's fair to say Colorado are the top of the tier. And we joked a couple of seconds ago that they're always sort of banged up, but the state Colorado were in last night, they were healthy. They're just a really good team that don't give up. And you give them some power play opportunities, and they're right back in it. I thought it was a good win by the Avs, but I don't think it's as disappointing a loss. It's still unacceptable, but I think it was a bit different from other sort of blown leads.
Well, okay, I'll start with, you bring up the power play. I saw a lot of people talking about the refs last night on both sides. This is my opinion. I thought they were abysmal left, right, and center, for both teams. Again, I'm not going to use the referees as an excuse, because if you actually go look, the Colorado Avalanche did not score a single goal on the power play. They scored 0 goals on the power play. Now, were the Leafs tired after being on the power play? I'm sure. But again, I don't think it's a good excuse to say, well, the referees, they scored 0 goals on the power play. That being said, it's still unacceptable that you blew a 4-1 lead. Am I mad? Yes. But I thought I walked into this season saying the regular season doesn't really matter. And I think a lot of people did, including other fan bases. So I'm not going to get mad when they blow a 4-1 lead in the regular season. I got mad earlier this year because there was a large stretch of games where they were playing half-ass. Mm-hmm. That's different. That's a mentality right there. But I think to look at this as one game and say, you know what, let's blow this thing up. Not that I'm saying people suggested that, but to overreact to this game, I don't think it's fair. Not fair. It's not what I'm going to do.
I think that's fair. You save your bullets, right? It's
right.
Yeah. There are games to get upset about. Losing to probably one of the best teams in the league, probably favorites to win the cup right there in Vegas. You know what I mean? There's, I think you can give not give them a pass, but you cannot be mad, but you can be disappointed.
Right. Am I upset that they lost? 100%, but I'm not going to go on a rampage about them blowing a 4-1 lead to the Colorado Avalanche. It's just not worth my time and my energy.
The dogs are losing it right now.
Really?
Hope that
I can't hear
Zoom
it.
settings I muted myself for a bit there, but I'm hoping
okay.
You didn't pick up anything there. Can you hear anything right now?
I heard one. It was very quiet.
There were 2, so there's another one.
Doom is a blessing. Okay.
Okay.
we lost the plot.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting also around Toronto is when I heard Nick Ritchie's name last time, I'm like, oh yeah, that's interesting because he's on waivers this week. Cleared, was still with the team. What did I miss that? What was why was he on waivers to begin with? Was there cap stuff going on or?
Well, I'm sure it gives them, I think, the flexibility to move him down into the taxi squad.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Which would then relieve some cap space. Again, he had a mixed game for me last night. He had a goal on the power play. He did he did make some noise in front of the net. He did his job, but at the same time, like there was just those glaring errors where it's like, Nick, you can't do that, man. Like he had that penalty towards the end of the game where he cross-checked someone right into Riley. It's like, man, what are you doing? Like you can't make those mistakes.
I'm not gonna lie. Part of me was really hoping Colorado were gonna score there, just so like the Twitter thing of Nick Ritchie was gonna kick into overdrive, but no.
No.
Devin Taves, by the way. Wow. Did you know I think he leads the league in, I think it's plus minus, which is like, whatever. But he also leads defensemen in points per game, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he out for a period of time? Is that
why? He did miss the start of the year, yeah. And then
Right.
they went on a stretch once he came back where they hadn't lost in forever. And now they won like 10 straight home games. Mikhail Makar is, again, my estimation, the best defenseman in the league, but it's almost kind of like I relate it to, have biased, suck it, I don't care. The Andrei Markov to PK Subban almost. You know what I mean? There's that steady guy in the background that's there. I really like Devin Taves. And my goodness, him, obviously he was a big part of that Islander system, but seeing him sort of with a leash off playing with Colorado is a sight to behold.
Yeah, 100%.
I hate how good that team is. And the embarrassment of riches that is their back end.
And they want to trade Sam Girard.
And if only the Habs weren't god awful. Don't get him. Man, Sam Girard, if they had Sam Girard on their team versus Tampa, maybe they don't lose in 5. Maybe they win some more games. Maybe they do the thing, but they didn't because Bergevin sucks and didn't want to. Anyway.
Let's not talk about Bergevin.
He's a clod. So many words to say about Berge. So I know I said I didn't want to mention too much minutia about the Habs injury stuff. There are 2 tweets I want to read from John Liu here because they're to do with Carey Price. Ducharme says Price's virtual meetings with his doctor in New York, planned in late December, have not yet occurred. There are crucial in-person exams that have to be done with New York City doctor in addition to team trainers. More info is expected on Price today. Ducharme says pending results of trainers findings, Price's next steps is to ramp up his on-ice exercises, and estimates the last time Carey would have been on the ice, obviously, is between the 15th and 20th. So the shutdown, a lot of things, besides getting the Habs healthy, because that's a setback, it seems, Carey Price's his return. Wow, that's a shame. You just like to see him at least get some games, especially if you're looking at, I hate saying this, but the avenue of trading, he needs to play, right? So even though that's a draft move, if it does happen, but still.
Yeah, and I also think like because of them not going to the Olympic, of the NHL not going to the Olympics, I think it makes a little more sense to take your time with Carey Price for multiple reasons. But I think there was this idea that if they were going to the Olympics, that he himself might want to rush himself in coming back.
Yeah. I still like to know Doug Armstrong's, I want to see some files on his computer to see what he was thinking. I really wanted to see. We have our special guest. Oh, okay, perfect. Well, we will be back in a second then to talk about some Penguin stuff. All right, Alex, we are back. So, Alex, do you know what really made me upset yesterday?
I'm assuming it wasn't the Leafs blowing a 4-1 lead.
No, you know I'm a big Colorado guy, so no, I wasn't upset about that at all. Plus, it gave content for the opening segment, so that's fine. No, it was that we knew we were going to have Curtis on today, and I looked at the Pens and I'm like, sweet, they're winning 10 straight. I forgot Pittsburgh were like the afternoon game, and then I heard they had played. I'm like, okay, let's look at this. And Dallas, the definition of mediocrity in this season, snapped the streak. But anyway, ruin a bit of the intro today. But please welcome a fellow member of our university, which still needs a new name. Curtis Martin, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
When I applied to internships and jobs and stuff, it's really just difficult for me because they're like, oh, what university do you go to? I'm like, X university? ? Ryerson? Maybe. I don't know.
They're still figuring it out.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't think it helps my process. I don't think
it did not.
Alex, I think you can talk to that, but
no, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting.
But anyways, I'm glad to be on, guys. I'm looking forward to talking about the Penguins. Maybe this was just bad luck. As soon as you guys were like, yeah, you can come on Sunday, they like hours later they lost. So maybe it's just bad luck. But I mean, you can't win them all, I guess. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's difficult to feel bad for Sidney Crosby's team. I don't think I ever once felt bad for the Penguins. But anyway. But yeah,
okay. When Crosby had his concussion issues, you felt
that's
bad for
obviously when Stecco happened, you're like, okay, but
when
losing a game, I'm like, yeah.
When for a brief moment I thought that Crosby's career was over, I was like in shambles. I was
sorry, just to start, because you mentioned there, that's the first thing I always wonder about with Penguins fans is you get to watch Sidney Crosby. I mean, you cheer for Sidney Crosby
when he's healthy. That's the key part.
That is true. But still, what's it like? Do you feel spoiled as a fan?
I feel like it's hard to be spoiled when you're in the midst of it. Like, I think for you, Alex, I could argue you're spoiled because you have Marner and Matthews, arguably part of one of the top lines in the NHL right now on your team when they're both healthy or not in COVID protocol, which, I mean, we could talk about the Penguins' fun ride with COVID this year. But yeah, obviously I'm spoiled because for my whole life, the Penguins have had either Crosby or Malkin on the ice. Like, I think I read somewhere before the season that there's only been 20 games since the Sidney Crosby era where neither of those players have been on the ice for the Penguins. And I'd argue that they're both going to be Hall of Famers. Like, I think Malkin's probably one of the greatest centers actually maybe he's one of the greatest Russian centers to play in the NHL of all time, as he could be argued, because Russia's always had a lot of strong wingers, and maybe that'll be proved otherwise. But yeah, I mean, like the only thing Malkin's short of is a gold medal at the Olympics. He has everything else. Right. I'm pretty sure in one of the years they were bad, he went over and won a world championship too with Russia, which I know no one follows, but I like international hockey, so I follow that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely spoiled. And I'm all like, yeah, you also have to think that, this team has had what I would say is good goaltending through most of that part too. Like, whether it's a random guy they've found and they just picked up, or it's been Marc-Andre Fleury, who I know, and like, it seems like a long time ago, but I remember the days when people thought Marc-Andre Fleury was the biggest choker in the world and just couldn't get together in NHL. And now look at him. He's like one of the best. I think he's top 5 in most playoff stats of all time for goaltenders right now. So, I mean, I've been pretty spoiled as a Penguins fan. Did I think that they were going to be a playoff team this year? No.
Really?
Like, as soon as I saw Malkin was injured and, Crosby's going to miss the first 2 weeks, I'll also admit I was a little bit shaky about Jari being our starting goaltender this year. Because, like, I like Jari as a goaltender. I'll say this, but the fact that he basically cost us the second round last year is kind of tough to be confident in a goalie after that.
Right.
Like, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you a question. Just go finish.
I was just going to say, because like the difference between like what Jari did and let's say what Campbell did was Campbell stood on his head in your series. Like, you weren't pointing at Campbell at the end of that series. But for an Leafs fan perspective, and the same with Montreal, like Carey Price was the reason you made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Whereas for us, our goaltenders like sewered us. Like, we outshot, outpossessed. We basically dominated the Islanders, which is kind of why I'm not shocked once they gave up one of their best scorers that they're having trouble putting the puck in the net this year under Barry Trotz, who's not an offensively gifted coach, even though he is the best coach in the NHL, in my opinion. I just am not shocked by that. And I saw that last year, and that's why it was even more heart-wrenching that we lost that series.
So you brought up Tristan Jarry, and I wanted to ask, and we were talking before, you mentioned you were a goalie. So what's the difference between Tristan Jarry during those games in the playoffs against the Islanders versus Tristan Jarry this year? Because I think there's a significant difference in terms of like you could just based on the stats, he's a significantly better goalie than what he was during those games in the playoffs. Like, is it what's happening in front of him, or is it something that has changed with him himself?
I think what I'm going to say is the biggest difference for this Penguins team is having a healthy Chris Letang. I think a lot of people don't talk about him because, you know, he was great. He's been great his whole career, but just injuries have been basically hampering him for the last, I'd say, 4-3 seasons. So, you know, I think that's a big help to any goalies when you have your number one defenseman in the lineup. I think he's been in the lineup almost every game, maybe a couple because of COVID he's been out, but basically in the lineup every day. And also John Marino is one of the better young defensemen in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. I can't say that about the West because Shea Theodore and Cale Makar exist over there, and they're unbelievable. But I think the big thing I really like analyzing goalies, and I think the main thing was he really was like low in his stance in the playoffs. And Tristan Jarry isn't a tall goalie to begin with. He's about 6'2". That's what he's listed as 6'3" on the NHL.com, but
he's not 6'3". No, he's not.
But there's a lot of biffing on those sites when the people are like weights and heights are put in there. So he's about 6'2", which in the modern NHL is really short for a goalie. Like most goalie scouts say, if you're under 6'1", we won't even like look at you. It doesn't matter if you have like a 972 save percentage. Like we're not even gonna like consider drafting you in the first 6 rounds. So hence why Devin Levi is a 7th round pick. And then once you crouch down, like from goalie standpoint, like it's hard to do because, you know, this is an audio thing, but like maybe I know you guys have some video, like kind of like what it's kind of like is like as a goalie, you want to be more upright, and he was like slouching. So then that creates holes over your shoulders, and that's where he's getting beat in last year's playoffs. So I think that's the main thing is, you know, he's being more like prominent, chest up, you know, he's not giving over the shoulder as much, because honestly, that's the toughest part is, you know, and then obviously confidence. Like once you like kind of sewer a couple games, it just goes into a spiral. Like if I'm a coach, if I ever become a coach and your goalie's like just has 1 or 2 bad games, you have to move on. Like I don't care if he's your guy or what's going on. It's just like goalies kind of like being a closer in the MLB is like such a mental thing. And it's like if you just get into a spiral where you can't pull yourself out of it, like there's nothing you can do. Don't care how good of a goalie you are. It's happened to every goalie. That being said, I also think it's kind of weird that this like narrative came because I think a lot of people forget about this when there's a bunch of injuries right before all this COVID stuff happened, but he was an all-star in 2019.
Yeah.
He was one of the top goalies in the NHL before there was the pause. And then COVID happened. And then we had a weird season last year where he was good in the regular season. Wasn't great. He was good. And then he's gone back to form this year.
Yeah, so, it's weird. That's why it was like, what the hell happened those games? He just kind of, it was the complete opposite of what we expected.
You want like even more history. Sorry to interrupt, but like I'm thinking back to the bubble and how it was Matt Murray was the starter against Montreal. And it was like, what are you thinking? We got to get Jarry in there. And just looking back on them both all like this, you know, sort of like playing hot potato with net almost like all these like years later. It's really funny to think about. Alex, I've also noticed incidentally that, Curtis has his Matt Murray jersey out. Oh no. Oh goodness gracious. All these years later.
I had to pull that out because I think I always see those Twitter questions where it's like, what is a jersey you most like regret buying? And besides the fact that has the cup crest on it, it's definitely that jersey. It's kind of a tough look to wear that around.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I also didn't want to buy just like a Crosby jersey because that's a little basic. So I kind of want a little insider baseball. But sorry, going back to your question, you know, before I completely sidetrack myself. I also think that Pittsburgh's underrated in its goalie development. And I know that, you know, we could talk about Matt Murray and the fact that, you know, he's been terrible since those 2 cup wins. And maybe we could say even during those cup years, he was a little bit shaky in the playoffs and he was just surrounded by a good team. And what a lot of people forget is that one of those years, Fleury basically won all the games leading up to the Eastern Conference Finals because he was hurt, and then he came back and won the cup in the finals. Which, if we want to bring up old history, I still think that that's kind of one of the reasons why Fleury was like, "Let me go" in the expansion draft, because he was kind of upset with Sullivan for not letting him continue to play when he was arguably one of the best goalies in the playoffs at the time. I mean, they still won. And if you go back into my Twitter history, like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, oh, they're going to lose now because they're putting in a goalie that hasn't played in a month and a half to the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think they're a very underrated goalie development system, because I think Jari's been great. Like, even if you look at his career numbers, I don't have them pulled up exactly at this moment. He's been really good in the NHL. I think besides this year, I've been a big Casey DeSmith guy, but Casey DeSmith has been pretty awful this year. So, is that, I think that's more of a product of DeSmith being bad and the Penguins being good. I'm not going to say the Penguins are a lockdown defensive team, because they're by no means, that's their weakness, is keeping the puck out of the net at times. So, will I say that he's been bad because he's bad? I think that's part of it. I also think it's part of the Penguins. But then you also have to look at some of the prospects that they have coming up, which I'm really high on. Kalle Clegg, who unfortunately we didn't get to see play for Team Sweden during the World Juniors, because obviously they only played, I think it was only 2 games.
2 games. Then it got canceled. And
Jesper Wallstad is the, since
main guy.
He is. A lot of people are talking about Spencer Knight last year.
Right.
And a lot of people have been talking about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in Buffalo as one of the big top prospects coming up. But Jesper Wallstad, in my opinion, is the best goalie in the world not playing in the NHL right now. And I put him over Spencer Knight. I think that it's hard to argue, because he's playing in the 3rd best league in the world, and he has a .930 save percentage right now with men.
Yeah.
I was yelling at the draft when Edmonton, they moved up in the draft, or so they traded down in the draft and like didn't pick him. I remember thinking, I've never shut up about that, and why they didn't do that.
I think it's interesting because Kosa is the North American version of Wallstad. And by that, I mean, he's like the Walmart version of Wallstad, in the sense that they're big, they're good positionally, and they both play well at their age level. Like, I think that I put Wallstad right now over Askarov too. I think
if Daniel was here, he'd be so excited.
I think Askarov is not to be too hot takey on this podcast, but I think Askarov is the most blown out of proportion goalie prospect in the world. Wow. I think he's good. I think he's athletic. He's the stereotypical Russian goalie. He's athletic, but his athleticism puts him out of position.
Right.
If you want an example of this, also just go back, watch the highlights from when he got pulled against Sweden. When this year. Not even when he got pulled last year against Sweden. Like, we can talk about all the like terrible goals he's let in the World Juniors. Like, I could make a 5-minute goal compilation of all the times where, as a goalie coach, I'm like, you have to stop that.
And he had the issue last year, right, with dropping his stick. Not that I don't know if that was an issue. Like, I'm not a goaltending expert.
No, you're
but
100%.
That seems to be a bit of an issue when you drop your stick multiple times in the same game.
And not to get a little bit sidetracked, but the fact that I know Alex saw this tweet, but I tweeted out during the World Juniors, I'm like, why do we still play with the trapezoid?
Yeah.
Like, Martin Brodeur doesn't play in the NHL anymore, and he was the only reason why the trapezoid existed, so that if you dumped the puck, he wouldn't just fire it back into your own end and create a 2-on-1, because he was that great of a puck handler, which he still is. Like, I've seen video clips of him trying to train New Jersey and St. Louis goalies on how to play the puck, and it's just one of those things. It's like Gretzky coaching. It's like he just knows, and no one else can do it. Like, and going back to the stick thing, like, I think there is 3 goalies off the top of my head I can think of right now where if they get rid of the trapezoid, they have an advantage. And one of them is basically going to be out of the league, and that's in Smith in Edmonton. He's one of the only good puck handling goalies, in my opinion, still left in the NHL. And then I think UC Saros is an underrated puck handler as a goalie as well. But yeah, like it just doesn't make any sense because honestly, I want more goals. And if you let the goalies go out and play the puck, there's going to be more goals. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we can go back all the way to 2010 when Roberto Longo, most people forget, that's almost screwed over Team Canada by going out and playing a puck and then turning it over. And then that resulted in a goal. And I don't know why you wouldn't want that. I don't know. It's just, as a goalie, it's my campaign to get rid of the trapezoid. It's in the SHL Liga. We can go all throughout Europe. They don't have the trapezoid. And it's not like the plays slow down. And if anything, it keeps the play going because there's going to be less icing because the goalie's going to be more willing to go play the puck, which will negate icing. And I think it'll be funny because it will actually force goalies to work on their puck handling because all they have to do now is, I'm going to go out. Oh, I'm going to stop the puck. I'm going to skate back to my net. Oh, I got to go behind the net, stop the puck. Oh, my defenseman's coming. Go skate back to behind the net. Now, if you do that, I think especially in the younger levels, like people who are 12 years old now, one goalie is just going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to practice playing the puck 5 hours a week. I'm just going to go out on the ice. I'm going to play the puck. I'm going to be amazing at it. And then if he has all the other skills to match up with that and be an NHL goalie, he's going to be amazing. And so I don't know why people are not rewarding skill and we're like hampering goalies because let's be real. 90% of them can't play the puck. Let's let the 5 people that can actually play the puck.
So I just quick thing. I remember when Patrick Wall in Colorado got called because he carried the puck over center ice. Let goalies be goalies. But speaking of goalies, funny enough, the guy who's chasing Patrick Wall for second all-time wins, it's Marc-Andre Fleury. Before we started recording, you mentioned to us you're a big Fleury guy. You also mentioned, by the way, his playoff numbers. I looked them up quickly. We know, of course, that regular season third, probably if he can keep going, retire second ahead of Watt and wins. But when it comes to playoffs, he is fourth all-time. He's 2 behind Grant Fuhr for third all-time. I just wanted to kind of ask because I look at Pittsburgh's scenario with Fleury and him going to the expansion draft. And when Seattle was happening with Carey Price, I was on edge for like a week. Ask the guys, I was unbearable. So there wasn't really that much of a secret that Fleury was going to Vegas for a while there. So as a big Fleury guy, what was that like for you?
It was inner turmoil because I was like, I have so much Penguin stuff. I don't know if I can change teams at this point. It was like, I was literally looking around my room and I have so much Penguin stuff. I'm like, I think it's kind of too much of a hard right to go to Vegas and become a Vegas fan. I also was just, when you've been cheering for a team for so long, it was kind of hard. So that was the first thing. But the second thing was that Pittsburgh basically said to him, like, hey, man, Murray's our guy. Now, we can sit here and decide whether that's a good decision or a bad decision. Objectively, it was a bad decision. But at the end of the day, at least they had the decency to go to him and be like, look, man, you want to go to Vegas, you want a fresh start because he was also the reason that they made it to that Stanley Cup Finals. Kind of like Montreal last year. Fleury, Carlson and a bunch of other guys before they made all these trades to get all the best players in the NHL on their team did help, but Fleury just carried them to that cup. I think he had maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had a 340 save percentage in those playoffs. So I've never thought he's been a bad goalie. I think he's only gotten better with age personally. I think that, a lot of people are saying that he's probably towards the end of his rope, but I still think despite his age, he's got a couple more years. Whether he's going to pass Grant Fuhr for playoffs, it depends if he gets traded or who he signs with next year, because Chicago's not making the playoffs. He's not going to, and if they do, they're not winning a game. So,
yeah, he's not going to be in Chicago for much longer.
I hope not. That would just be wasting one of the best goalies of all time's career in Chicago just because Vegas needed to dump salary.
Right.
Alex, do you want to go ahead with the deadline, by the way?
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned before you didn't think the Penguins were going to make the playoffs. I think obviously now looking at it, they're in a bit of a different situation where they're competing for a divisional spot. Is there any guys or are there any parts of the team where you think that that they can go out and get around trade deadline or even now? Like, I know it's January, but sometimes they get their moves done earlier.
It's a good question. I think Nylander is one of those moves. I know it's kind of weird because he's playing Wilkes-Barre right now, and I expect him to play in Wilkes-Barre till Malkin comes back. And then I think that he's going to fit in on that second or third line. I mean, I wrote an article about it, which people can read, and I can maybe plug that a little bit later. But
yes.
I think that Pittsburgh, kind of like Chicago of the early 2000s, has figured out that, hey, when you have two players that are so good that they bring up the value of other players, all we need to find is the right people to play with them. And they fail at times. Like getting Phil Kessel was an objectively bad decision because initially they're like, Phil, play with Sid. And then Sid was like, I can't play with Phil because he's slow and he's not where I need him to be. Right. And so then they tried him with Malkin. And then Malkin was like, I can play with him, but I'd rather not play with him because I actually hate his guts. Like I think a lot of people who don't follow Pittsburgh don't realize how much of inner turmoil there was between the top guys like Letang, Crosby, Malkin, and their joint hatred of Phil.
Yeah, wasn't Malkin going to be like, there was rumors that he wanted out, or there was the referendum. It was either me or Phil Kessel. And obviously they chose Evgeny Malkin, like rightfully so, but like, that's crazy to me.
I think the only reason that they could stand him in the same way that, I don't know how many basketball fans we have listening to this podcast, but in the same way that the Bulls were able to stand Rodman, was that he brought an innate skill. Maybe it was only that one skill. In Rodman's case, it was rebounding. In Phil's case, it was to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. That was hard to pass up. Sure. Was he a pain in the ass? Yes. Is he on a market that no one cares about? Yes. So that we just don't hear about it anymore. Like, he's a pain in the ass. But I think, going back to, I'm just going all over the place today. Going back to Nylander, because we kind of went off topic there, but I think he's going to be the next guy that they bring in that, is kind of washed up, we'll say, that will turn his career around. It's not because Alex Nylander has had a bad career. Like, I'm pretty sure, I'm sorry, my brain's kind of mush over the last couple of days because I've been worrying about a bunch of stuff and writing that article, but I'm pretty sure he scored, it was 32 points in 2019-2020 with Chicago Blackhawks, which in a third line role is pretty good on a okay Chicago team. And then he's been at least a half a point a game the AHL in his career. And he's only played 80 NHL games. So he's hasn't even played a full NHL season yet worth of games.
But it would be the most Pittsburgh thing ever for them to trade for Alex Nylander and him to succeed. Because I get he's a top 10 pick, right? Or he's a former top 10 pick, but he's had what we would consider a struggling start in Buffalo and Chicago, which aren't the best franchises at the moment. But it would be so Pittsburgh for him to work there. Like Teddy Bluger, like just out of nowhere came out and it's like, yep, I guess he's okay now.
And then if you want to go even farther back, we can go to Zach Aston Reese and Brian Rust, who were pretty sure Brian Rust wasn't even drafted. He was a college free agent that they signed. And man, if you want to learn something from these cup teams, sign college free agents. They are so underrated. I think it's maybe in the last couple of years, teams are taking these players higher in the draft because of teams like Pittsburgh who have been great college hockey scouts. Like they've had great college hockey scouts for the last decade and have taken a full advantage of, a lot of these teams sleeping on their own teams in their backyard. Like how many of these major sports cities have a major college hockey team? Even Arizona State now has one of the better college hockey teams in the country. So, I mean, I think that, and then they also make really savvy signings. Like this is also going to sound really funny, but I was really high on the Evan Rodriguez signing even before he stepped on the ice.
Hasn't that worked?
And it's been like amazing. Like, do I want him to be our first line center, which he was for a month? No, I really, really don't. But he's been great. And like for that reason, I think they're kind of done in a sense. Like I look at this team and I think they are what they are. They're going to be up against the cap as it is because they only have $5 million and they have, I think it's like Malkin makes about 9 and I know that it's like 5 for Zucker and they're both out. And so they're going to have to find a way to squeeze everyone in. So I don't know how much more moves they can make. The only thing I would say is maybe a backup goalie. DeSmith has been bad, like we've already talked about, and so bad that Jari on his one day off had to come in that 8-6 game against San Jose, so Pittsburgh didn't blow the winning streak, which I'm going to tell you right now, for most part of the season, it's been a joy to watch the Penguins, but that game was like, I was kind of like the kid where it's like, you close your eyes, but then you kind of like have to peel them open because you want to see what's happening, but you don't at the same time. You're just like, it's just a complete mess with DeSmith. I'm not saying that, he maybe couldn't turn around and become the great backup that he has been in past. Like there was a time a couple years ago where DeSmith and Jari were fighting for the starting spot. Like DeSmith played so well behind Fleury when Murray got injured in that one playoff in that one season. And when he had to leave because of his dad's death, which was, I think maybe part of the reason, like I'm not a psychiatrist, but I still think it's part of the reason he's not found his game is because of that. But ever since then, DeSmith has taken advantage of every opportunity except for this season to be able to play in the NHL. Right. He's another guy, college hockey free agent, I'm pretty sure, that they just picked up and has been a pretty good goaltender. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do because I didn't expect them to get Jeff Carter. And I was also really high on that Jeff Carter trade last year because I think that Jeff Carter is the perfect third or fourth line center, depending on how you view this team this year, because both him and Rodriguez are the reason why the Penguins are 9th, and maybe they've dropped since their loss yesterday. I haven't checked the standings, but 9th in the NHL right now. And it also has to do with the fact that why all these misfits, I like to call them the island of misfit toys, Pittsburgh, because they have all the rivers around them and they just get random players and they start playing good. I think the greatest examples of all time is Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz, but like players like that, they just have a good system. And part of that's Mike Sullivan, and in my opinion, being the Jack Adams winner this year, because he went a month without having either of his top players and they were well above 500. Now, you could argue that, Jari's saved their ass and that's part of the reason why they've been so good, which I would 100% agree with. But I think if you look at every Jack Adams winner, not one of them has had a below subpar goalie backing them up. It's just the way the NHL works. Is that I really don't care what you do. I think a line I heard is that, you can have the all-star team playing in front of you, but if you're like Joe Schmo from the beer league in an NHL game, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
Unless it's David Ayres, then I guess you can win. I had to go there, Alex.
What was that for? I thought we were cool. What's all this? What was that one for? That would hurt.
But I mean,
Jake Allen for Sam Poulin. Let's make it happen. To like take 20 minutes to answer your question. I don't know what move they make, unless you guys have like want to throw a trade at my way that you think they should make, like backup goalie. But then, what backup goalie do I want at this point? Like,
Fleury, but I'm not trading for Fleury again because he's not going to be my backup again. That's not what he wants.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, that was the reason why Chicago got him. What I was hearing from a lot of the Pittsburgh reporters was that Pittsburgh was willing to give Chicago more, or Vegas more than what Chicago gave them if he would be willing to come as a backup. That was no joke. Like, there was strong reports about that, but Fleury was like, I love Pittsburgh. It's great, but I'm still a starting goalie. In his mind, he is still a starting goalie. So he's not going to go anywhere that is going to make him a backup. And then they do that, he's going to ride out the rest of the season and then he's going to retire. He almost retired because they sent him to Chicago as a starter. So
Can you imagine saying, I'm going to acquire the Vezina winning goaltender, but he has to be the backup? I love that. Just a few rapid fire things before I let you go, because you've been very generous with your time. First off, this was an age-old troll I threw Alex's way when we first started the show. So obviously, Chris Kunitz, I think, has, is it 4 cups or 3?
You know what? It's been a while since I've checked. I think it's 3 cups. I could be wrong.
Because there's the Anaheim one in there. Okay,
yeah, I think it's.
He has 4.
Cups.
He has 4.
He has 4? That's hilarious. Okay, Alex, I need you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
So do you have his Wikipedia up with all his awards and that?
I have his hockey reference up, yeah.
Hockey, okay, so that has his overall points too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to throw your way here, Curtis. Let me just quickly get this up. Because it's a bit cheeky here. So I'm going to read you the stats of 2 different players where Chris Kunitz, but I'll have Alex read you his qualifications here. Okay, so this player has an Olympic gold. Fair enough. This player has a World Junior gold. I'm pretty sure he does. I actually could be wrong there.
Let's also make it clear that a lot of people have reported that management did not want Chris Kunitz on that team. The guy named the guy that wanted him on that team is the name Sidney Crosby. Apparently, he vouched very hard for Chris Kunitz to be on that team. Which, in hindsight, I don't disagree with management. I'm like, hey man, we could get young Steven Stamkos to go on the wing for you. And if we also look at the 2010 Olympics, Sid didn't really do so hot scoring points. So
I think
Chris
we can forgive that for the golden goal, though.
Chris Kunitz did score a goal though in that tournament. I remember that vividly.
So sorry, just to go back to it. So actually, Alex, just read me all of Chris Kunitz's awards and that. Give me his point totals and finish it with how many cups he has, and I'm going to read this other guy.
So he has 0 awards. He's a one-time All-Star. 1,022 games played, 268 goals, 351 assists, for 619 points. And he's a 4-time cup winner.
And he also scored the goal that sent them to the 2017 finals. Never forget. Okay. Yep. Compared to someone who I think he might have an Olympic gold, the World Cup of Hockey in there, a World Juniors gold too. He's never won the cup. He's never been outside the first round. He only has 853 points. That's not too bad. 902 games played. Who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame?
Wait, how many goals? How many assists?
378 goals, 475 assists. That's not awful. Having a very good year this year. Who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame more? Chris Kunitz, a real winner, or this other guy? I'm not going to tell you the name of.
I'm going to get a lot of hot takes, but I think cups matter very little to your Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to take my side there. So you're going to say the guy with 900 points or 853, right?
Yeah, because if we do logic of only cups, then guys let me think in my head. Didn't Guy Lafleur only win 1 cup? Did he even win a cup? I don't think he did.
I without looking, he probably won a few. He definitely won a lot of cups.
5.
Yeah, okay, he was probably in the 70 cups.
There is a Montreal Canadian that was really good that I'm blanking his name right now that never won a cup.
Probably Saku.
Okay, we could go Saku. Do you think Saku's a Hall of Famer?
No.
Patrick Maroon has 3 cups, by the way.
I'm just saying that maybe there's an argument that Chris Kunitz should be in the Hall of Fame over John Tavares.
Okay, and I will Jordan McCaw. Okay, wait. Curtis, you'll know this one. Jordan McCaw, right? He played for the Raptors and the Warriors. Minimal player. He has 3 rings.
Okay, so the difference between Chris Kunitz and McCaw is the fact that Chris Kunitz actually plays on the ice a decent
No,
amount.
100%. 100%.
But at the same point, you know, I might make a lot of enemies here, but there's a lot of inductions in the last couple of years, and I'm like, ooh, this is becoming the Hall of okay compared to the Hall of Greats. Like, no offense, I know he's a good player. He got shadowed by a lot of good players, but Kevin Lowe wasn't in the Hall of Fame for me.
No, me neither. By the way, I gotta correct myself because I forgot that Tavares, I think he was one who scored the game send, like when the Islanders beat Florida in 7. I think he got the series winner. I forgot about that, but it's the Islanders pre Lamoriello. Who cares? Okay, next quick question here.
But yeah, I think if John Tavares doesn't win a Stanley Cup, like Jerome McGinley never won a cup. Jerome McGinley is the best power forward of all time in the NHL, I would argue. You're not taking him out because he didn't win a cup. I think cups pad your chances. But I think that Chris Kunitz doesn't have over 300 goals. If someone in the Hall of Fame that's not a defenseman has over 300 goals that isn't from 1992, like get that out of my face. I'm sorry. Like, Chris Kunitz does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a perfectly fine NHL player. I respect him a lot. You know, there's something said for winning 4 cups, you know, but also, as Marian Hossa said to me in person this year, it's also a lot about luck. Because look, he flip-flopped 2 years and didn't win a cup either of those years.
Yep.
He went from the team that lost to the team that lost the next year. So is it all about the player? No, it's about the team that you're on. So in the same way that I feel like a lot of the 80s Oilers are kind of getting this like shuffle pass into the Hall of Fame, which I think is ridiculous. I don't want that to happen, even if it is a player that as a child I had fond memories of. I don't think Chris Kunitz should make it into the Hall of Fame.
I will never get over that they named the 80s Oilers the best team of all time. No, it's not. Anyway, of course I'm going to ask this to a Pens fan. Does Ovi break the goal record?
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Where were you when Kuznetsov scored the Game 6 goal?
Where was I? Oh, I was in a parking lot in Guelph because I was dropping someone off and I had my phone. This is illegal, so I'm sorry. I had my phone tilted up on my dashboard and I was watching the game sort of as I was driving. Like at red lights, I would look down and have a look at it. And yeah, I was in a parking lot. I think it was like the Walmart parking lot in Guelph because my sister used to work at Walmart and I was dropping her off, and that's where I watched it, which is really random, but yeah.
Oh, fair enough. What a great moment. I was in an emergency room because I had sprained my ankle. Anyway, that was great. That was great. Love that. Me and the nurse I was watching the game with could not believe our eyes. Okay, Malkin, Letang, are they both Penguins next year? Because obviously they're both UFAs.
Malkin, yes. Letang, yes. But I want to preface this quickly because I know this is supposed to be rapid fire. If they were below 500 right now, Letang would have already been traded.
Fair enough. Okay, this will be the last one for me before I throw it to Alex. You're obviously a photographer for Rams, which for those of you who don't know, that's our school's sort of the title for the athletics and that. Rams, woo. I actually have my We Are Rams shirt on underneath this, but whatever.
I'm not even rocking. I'm rocking Kent University, which is a random university that my mom went to in the US. So shout out Kent University.
There we go. So being a sports photographer, what's that like? And a follow-up that you can maybe say afterwards. Do you have any cool moments that you think you've captured that you'd like to mention?
Oh. Okay, the second part's tough. There's been despite the fact that like I haven't shot NHL games or NBA games, I'll put it out there like that. I haven't done any of that stuff. I've had some pretty cool moments. I think the coolest moment was I have a pretty good picture of the first ever goal for the Toronto Six in Toronto, which is a pretty special moment. I'm gonna get that picture framed. I'm in the process of getting it printed professionally. So hopefully, maybe if I come back on the podcast, if you have me back on, we'll see it in the background at that point. Hopefully I can make sure that's set up in the background so that the viewers can see it. But that's got to be the most special moment. Also because I am a big advocate right now for women's hockey. I hope that the NHL creates a WNHL at some point. I'm not okay. That being said, the PHF is doing a good job with what they can to try to create that league. So if I could do a whole podcast on the issue with women's hockey, but I'm not going to diverge into it. And then being a sports photographer, I think the way I say it to most people and why I enjoy it so much, is that you have no control. Like when I shoot, it's kind of an out of body experience. Like if someone came up to me in the middle of a basketball game and was like, "What's the score?" I would have to look up the scoreboard. I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea who's winning, who's losing, because my mind's always like, okay, so especially in basketball, I don't know, Adam, if you watch a lot of basketball, but I know that Alex does. Basketball is a lot of there's windows, especially with defense. And so my whole mind's always like, okay, I need to get the shot in this window or else there's just going to be a guy blocking me. And that's the same with hockey. It's like, oh, this guy's coming down the wing. I need to get the shot. It's all about kind of mentally getting the shot. And then when you get the shot, it's the best experience in the world. And I think I don't know. I just think it's a dying art with, cell phone cameras, the fact that someone can go out with a DCLR and take great photos is dying. And there's a lot of good people that I've been able to work with, like Josh Kim, who's also at Ryerson, and then Julian, who's now working for the NHL, who's a great videographer. So I've had the privilege of working with guys like that. And yeah, it's just been great. I love it.
You know what? I remember I used to have I think it feels like it's a necessary thing to have for a hockey fan, a picture of the famous Bobby Orr goal. But you mentioned windows, and I can imagine talking about a Toronto moment when Kawhi took the shot in those few seconds, how many photos were taken? How many different, you talk about capturing a moment and that's something I've always, I like thinking about. Also I remember used to be a big wrestling guy. When you'd see a wrestler do their finisher and you'd see the flashes everywhere in the arena. It's one of those cool visuals in sports too. And you know what? It's honestly good on you for doing it because, I think that's an underrated part of sport, but it's a cool one.
Not to sidetrack us, because I've been doing that a lot this episode and I apologize. I feel for all the audience, I want to give a clap for Alex, because editing this podcast is going to be a complete mess. It's going to be 2 hours long at this point, so I feel bad for him.
It's okay.
But personally, my favorite shots are always the Muhammad Ali shots, and I know those are classic and those are big deal. But we also have to think when I take a photo, I instantly know what it looks like, and when those guys took those photos, they're like, okay, I hope that worked out, and they went back and had to put them in a dark room and do all the chemical stuff to them, which also my dad's been a professional photographer for a while and he was doing it back then too. Cause he's older than I am and digital technology hasn't always been around, but he taught me how to do it. And it is very easy to ruin a photo, even if it's good, by doing that process. So I give the most respect to the old time photographers. If honestly, a really big goal of mine would be to find some of the remaining surviving photographers that did a lot of the film photography in the 80s and 70s and even back to the 60s, if that's possible, and sitting down doing a podcast series with them and talking about that. Because I don't know, it's kind of a nerdy thing, but it's one of those things where I really like to talk to those people. So, I mean, we'll see. But yeah.
You could do a whole thing and edit in all their shots and that. That could be a really cool, you should do that. That sounds like a really good idea.
I might have to. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I say all this stuff and then I get sidetracked and really busy, and half of them never happen. But
you know what? Now that you're on, Daniel, who again is not here, does a lot of that stuff, and we constantly pester him about stuff. So next time we have you on, we're definitely going to pester you about that because that is a legit cool thing to do. Alex, go ahead.
Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, or not even 2 weeks ago, there was those restrictions that they put in Ontario again. One of them was they were closing training facilities and gyms. And then obviously there was that list of exemptions for certain leagues. And I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I do remember that the OUA was left off the professional and elite amateur list, which is ironic considering the OUA does send Olympians. So it's like they're not elite amateur. And as a photographer for an OUA team, I imagine you have some insight on how hard they work and how hard they train. Like when you saw that, like what was your initial reaction?
First, I want to say that it's so ironic that they're not considered elite when you've seen a lot of the men's hockey players flock to the ECHL now, signing contracts once they think that the season's over. Like, it's also going to like the fact that that happened, and a lot of, I know ECHL contracts are kind of one of those things where you can drop in, drop out, and some of these players can come back to U Sports under my knowledge, from what I understand. And I don't want to get too much into that stuff, because if you want to talk about that, talk to Ben Steiner, because he knows all about that. And I do want to give him credit, first of all, because he's the guy that's on top of all this. So I do want to shout him out quick. But
he was on Tim and Sid, eh?
Yes, he was. I like that guy. He's great. He's really fun to talk to. But like, yeah, going back to your question, it's heartbreaking because I like to think that I've gained some good relationships with some of the athletes. You know, it's kind of tough because I don't want to be in their way, because that's not the type of guy I am. I'm kind of be there, do my work. You know, if they want to chat to me, I'm definitely open to chatting with them. But yeah, like an example I can give, an anecdote I can give is during like photo day, which we do every year for all the athletes to get their headshots put up on the website. And I have to do the photos for that along with some of the other photographers. Those people, like, they do that, and then right after that, they either had training right before that, and then they're going to work out right after that, or it's the other way around. Like, we just had training in the gym, and now we're going to go work out. Like, who I feel bad for the most, and it's not to say that any of these teams couldn't do this, but our women's basketball team is currently undefeated right now and is ranked top 5 in the country, and we have some great players on that team and some girls that are, I'm pretty sure, entering their last year or two. I don't know with the exemption last year and the extensions if they can come back after the season, but it's been a really fun team to watch, and I hope to cover them more, take photos of them more. They've been great to me. I've gotten to travel on a couple bus trips with them, and they're a lot of fun to be around. So I just feel bad for all those athletes, and it's not just Ryerson, it's U of G. I've done a lot of work. I know a lot of people that are in the football world for U Sports, and you know, this is heartbreaking because it shows you that people don't really take U Sports seriously. And I think that's something that really should change, because we've seen a lot of U Sports athletes in the football side move to Division I NCAA, and that just shows that they're elite athletes. So, you know, Doug Ford, smarten up, let them practice, let them play. Because the sad thing is like, as much as it sucked that the OUA shut down for this month, if they don't change this, for all the listeners at home, they're not going to be able to play even when the OUA wants to play. The government's just going to say no. So hopefully we get back. I do understand why. I don't want to be like that guy that's like, oh, you know, COVID's not a big deal, because I will admit I got COVID over the break because, you know, Christmas and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't too bad, luckily for me, but so I do understand it. It's just, if you're letting like elite high school basketball academies play, and like, why aren't you letting university athletes play? That's just my thing.
I think that's very fair. Well,
at least we can walk through them all, though, right? So
okay.
Yeah, we can walk through the Eaton Center. Yay! Everyone who, because I live downtown right now, everyone's like, "Oh, you must love having the Eaton Center near you." I'm like, I hate going to the Eaton Center. It's a zoo all the time. It's poorly laid out. It's just a mess. Like, I hate that. It's underratedly a terrible design for a mall.
It is. I was back right like the few days before, like one of the few days before Christmas, wasn't it, Alex? Like the three of us met up to see Spider-Man, and it was my first time in the Eden Center during COVID. I was just like, and I'm like, what's happening here? Anyway, again,
chef kiss of a movie, by the
way. Oh my God! Listen, fantastic. Oh goodness gracious, it was amazing. It was so
we won't spoil it because there is people that haven't watched it yet. But
I feel bad for anyone who has to see it, or I don't even know. Are theaters open still, or is it just
no? They're closed.
Okay, no, it was like a week where you could, but it was like restricted attendance. I feel bad for anyone who didn't see it with a full theater.
You couldn't eat popcorn, which was really weird.
It was so disappointing.
Anyway, but hey, great movie. Amazing stuff. Curtis, you have been very gracious with your time. We'll say goodbye to you in a second off thingy, but before we end the recording with you, go ahead, plug all your gubs, make it known where people can find you, all that type of stuff.
So I guess if you want my social media, you can find me on Twitter at cmartin387. If you want to hear nerdy goalie facts and listen to me talk about the trapezoid and, complain about officiating the NHL, you can follow me there. I also have a Blue Jays podcast that I do with my friend Tyler Prozik, who's also in our program, called The Blue Jays Away. We've had some great guests on. I can kind of tease that we're going to have some industry professionals coming on to join us in January later this month, and then also in February. So really excited to get back at that. And then also I run a student website called Overline Sports. You can find that at www.overlinesports.ca. Have my article up there. We have a bunch of different people from the university and out of the university that work for us. So, it's a great place if you want to work on your writing, you want to get some hours in, you can definitely hit me up or just DM one of the OTL accounts. But yeah, that's all I got. And I just want to thank you guys for letting me rant, because when you're the host, you can't rant. You have to let the guests speak. And I've thoroughly enjoyed going down the Penguins rabbit hole. I don't know how much we talked about the actual current Penguins, which is fine because I honestly find the old Penguins kind of more interesting, but I really appreciate you guys having me on.
No worries. Now, when we come back, there's been an update with the Habs GM search. We're going to talk about Evander Kane because there's another chapter there, people. We're going to have a note about Joe Thornton because he's approaching a great milestone. And there's been some breaking news with the Coyotes. Where they're going to play next year. Nobody knows. We will be back in a second. Alex.
Adam.
We're back for a third time.
We're still here.
Yeah. How are you? Still good, I hope.
I'm still good. Haven't really changed.
That's good. That's very good to hear. You want to know what some breaking news happened while we were recording? Did you see?
Which thing? There's about like 3 of them, I think.
The thing that I noticed was that Evander Kane cleared waivers.
Yes, I did see that. No, I saw they postponed Tampa Bay and New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
And then Ottawa and the Oilers got moved to next weekend.
Because Edmondson got more cases, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
That is low-key a mess. Do you think there are Oilers fans waiting to like toss their jerseys on the ice?
Didn't they already do that?
Yeah, well, you can.
I guess you can toss more than what. Yeah, I'm sure there are, but I don't know the restrictions in Alberta. But as soon as there are fans who are sitting right close to the ice, I guarantee you there will be a jersey.
Yep. Okay. We were talking about the Habs. 2 quick things before we can move. Before Curtis came on. Yep. 2 things with the Habs we can mention. First off, condolences to the Edmondson family. Joel's father had passed away. We know he'd been battling cancer for a while. Human side of the game, Alex. If you remember, when Joel Edmondson, I never shut up about this, but I don't remember if I said this to you off the podcast or on it a few times, but probably everywhere. Joel Edmondson's father was a Habs fan, before Joel obviously got into the NHL. So it was a big thing for him that he got to see Joel in a Habs uniform, got to see him go to the Cup final, obviously got to see his son win a Cup with St. Louis. So you would hope that at least, once he went, you knew he was going to be proud of his son. So, and we knew that Joel Edmondson was taking time away for the team for it. So just a thing for them. And condolences to the family. It's a real shame. And then other Habs news. This is from Eric Engels yesterday. With the first round of Habs GM interviews done, the hope is to name Marc Bergevin's successor within the next 2 weeks. First off, I love how he had to mention Bergevin's name there. God damn it. Don't believe interviews for finalists have been booked yet, but believe notifications to go out in the next couple of days. Second interviews could begin early this coming week. First interviews were held virtually, some for longer than 90 minutes. Believe there's a desire to have some in-person meetings for the second round. Renaud Lavoie was also talking about, apparently Patrick Waugh's interview was on Friday, I think, which sounds like he was probably the last one. And we were joking before we started recording that he will probably be in the finalist category just to distract the media because they all want him to be GM. But
so I mean, you'd probably have a better gauge of it than I do, but I only see a lot of the Habs stuff that comes across my timeline as angles, as Julian McKenzie, Arpon Basu, and sometimes Marc-Antoine Gaudin. But like, is it a popular thing amongst the media that they think Patrick Waugh should be GM? Like,
it's weird. So first off, listening to 32 Thoughts and then listening to the Chris Johnson show is, on one hand, you hear like Merrick and Friedman go about Kent Hughes, the candidate, right? Saying like, he's the guy. But then you hear CJ talk about Mathieu Darche being the guy. And then you have the French media who very much have been Patrick Waugh, because he's just the biggest story with it, unfortunately. So first off, that tells me no one actually knows what's going on. It's just pure speculation, which happens with markets like Montreal. But it definitely feels like, and we knew earlier in the process, it was a lot of English media talked about Danny Briere. But it feels like a lot of the French media have been really hammering home Waugh. A few of them have been going for Stéphane Quintel. No. But yeah, it's definitely been, Waugh has been the biggest headline for obvious reasons. But I can't see him getting the job. Can you?
No. I mean, I said it when the rumors started. I'm like, I just don't see, looking at Jeff Gordon and then looking at Patrick Waugh, they seem to me like two complete different personalities. So to put them in the same organization together wouldn't make sense to me.
I wouldn't get it either. Biggest story the last few days, though. Evander Kane. We know he is cleared waivers for the purpose of not commentating. We're commentating about the fact that his contract's about to get terminated. The PA will be, of course, appealing this process. Makes sense. Considering Evander Kane has $22 million floating in the air right now. Apparently, it's to do with him breaking AHL COVID protocol. For those of you who don't remember, he's been with the Barracuda, not the Sharks. The Barracuda Sharks, not the San Jose Sharks. And apparently he flew to Vancouver while positive for COVID-19. It feels almost as if they were waiting for something. I thought faking the passport, the vaccine passport, was going to get his contract done. I wonder if this was just they were waiting for one more thing with Evander Kane, because it feels like they were waiting for a reason.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what it felt like to me as well. And I'm going to mention it. I don't remember what episode it was on, but Daniel did mention when we were talking about Evander Kane that his thought was closer to the trade deadline that Evander Kane would be put on waivers for contract termination, and then a team would pick him up, that's what seems like going to happen. Like, I think Friedman did mention that if Evander Kane hits UFA, it becomes a free agent, that there are multiple teams interested in him, which doesn't surprise me. It's just, can someone help this guy?
It's for stuff like the gambling problem, you want him to get help. For stuff like this, for breaking protocols, it seems to be the guy just, the second that we know of COVID, sort of the loophole he's tried to pull, you lose sympathy really quickly. And I don't think Evander Kane had a lot of sympathy to begin with. I feel like we were too kind to him at points in the show. Who the heck is going to, who are these teams who are thinking of this? Vancouver? St. Louis? Who are the tough guys? Anaheim, maybe?
It's not going to be a Canadian team, I imagine.
I don't see. Toronto are very strict with that moral stuff. I don't think Montreal can afford the PR thing. I'm assuming you mean with COVID protocol.
I mean,
right?
because of COVID, this is the second time this season COVID has become an issue for Evander Kane, and considering the direction that the Canadian government and the provinces have taken, I just can't see a team risking signing him right now.
So sources are telling you he's going to Chicago.
I mean, I don't know what to say about Evander Kane, because it's just a little disappointing.
It's strike number 6 this year, the double turkey. should we say, for your bowling fans out there? Is that a term? Double turkey?
I don't know.
Double decker turkey? I don't know.
We'll go with it. We'll go with that. No, it's again like just things that you please just get help.
For your kids' sake. For your kids' sake.
Yeah.
Sort your life out, man.
And like, again, Mike, I don't want to compare the two situations, but when we talked about Logan Mailloux, I said personally that the Montreal Canadiens did not allow him to better himself by himself.
Mm-hmm.
They forced him in a way that now he has to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He was drafted and he has to do it. He wasn't allowed to redeem himself. And I think it's similar to Kane here. Now I think if Kane just if he gets help and he fixes what he's done, like there's clearly some type of issues here, and a team's going to sign him and it's kind of just going to go away.
For anyone wondering, why would a team touch him? Because he's good. Remember when the Brendan Leipzig stuff happened and people were, for those of you who don't know, Brendan Leipzig was banished from the league because he had some very misogynistic DMs leak. And people were making the point, I don't think these were fair points, and I don't agree with the stuff. I thought he was a dirtbag. But there was that sense of, if this was Alex Ovechkin, for example, does he get thrown out of the league? Of course not. The thing with Evander Kane is if some of the accusations and then stuff that has been proven, like this he will deny this COVID stuff apparently, but stuff like his faking the vaccine stuff that he did earlier this year and he got suspended for like 3 months because of it. If that noise was around the fourth line winger, well, yeah, they're going to be overseas playing by this point. But because Evander Kane is a very good player, a top line player in this league, capable of 30 goals if he really puts it all together in a year, unfortunately, yeah, someone's going to sign him. You mentioned Logan Mailloux. I forgot to put on the doc here because I was so angry about it. But all the French reporters praising his debut for London when I think it was his first official London Knights game. But yeah, I was getting really annoyed about that. It's like, what a game from Logan Mailloux. I was like, shut up. There was more. Agree with me. I want to know if you agree with me here. There was more attention around, I think, his debut for London and praising his game than there was criticism once he was reinstated from certain reporters. You know what I mean?
From the media?
Maybe it's because I follow more of the French and have beat more, but I was seeing a lot more from those guys about his game than obviously mentioned to Jeff Gordon when he was hired, criticizing the OHL's decision when he was reinstated. I'm just seeing a lot around the positivity of him as a player, which there's a reason he was projected to go in the first round. But when it comes to showing if there's any real regret with the kid, a lot of people have been silent talking about it.
I mean, from my perspective, the only person I saw talking about Logan Mailloux's game was Grant McKegg. But I also, I guess, agree with your point. I have not really seen anyone talk about him being reinstated. So no, I think you're right in that sense.
Reporters like Jonathan Bernier, it's so annoying that there is a French reporter named Jonathan Bernier and there is a goalie named Jonathan Bernier. They're different people, but like Jonathan Bernier, I know, was live tweeting and I'm like, what am I looking at?
I'd say, to add to your point, I think there was a lot more people just plainly talking about the game than when he was reinstated, like at all, like positive or negative. I think there were more people talking about the game than when he was reinstated, which I'd argue him being reinstated actually might be a bigger story.
Here's how I can describe it to you. When that game was going on, it was like a Habs game in my Twitter feed. Because you know how once a game is going, then Twitter sort of filters your feed a certain way. It was like that.
Okay. Wow.
Where can we go from here, Alex? Evander Kane, I don't know what to say. Something that's actually kind of cool. is what's going on with the HDA right now in their new campaign with Budweiser. This racism, no place in the game tape that's coming out. First off, powerful trailer.
Yeah.
Let's listen with the news. There's a bit of unfortunate stuff with this, and that is Keegan Mitchell, who is a player in, I think he's a PEI player. I can't remember the exact league. But he's been suspended because he criticized social media. He criticized officials and their response to a racist incident involving a teammate of his, criticized the league, is indefinitely suspended from, he's not in good standing, which means he's suspended from all activities sanctioned by the governing body of hockey in the province. And it has to do with a anti-Asian comment made towards one of his teammates from a player on the Vipers, who are another PEI team. I'm not familiar with the PEI league, unfortunately, Alex. And obviously, Mitchell hasn't been in the public very thinking about what exactly was said, except that he went to the player, called him out for saying a racist remark, and he had no place in the game. Now, the reason I kind of bring these two together here is I just kind of see a mirror image here. But you know how it, like those amusement parks, there's the distorted kind of mirror?
Yeah.
So I see the HDA and I see this is a really cool thing they're doing with Budweiser. This great sort of initiative, right? And how good it could be if they were associated with the NHL. And I see this league in the country. I know everyone kind of laughs at PEI because they're this little island off and out east, but you know, one of our major provinces, you know what I mean? And this small league, and a player gets suspended for stepping up for his teammate without it's not even a fight type thing. It's calling out someone for not dealing with racism. And it's just this sort of broken, distorted mirror of hockey and its image. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I want to get to, because there's something, I don't know if you've seen Rick Westhead's article about the HDA stuff. I'll read you some stuff from that because it's quite interesting, but we'll get to that afterwards.
Okay.
So I really think it is Bush League that this guy, this kid got suspended indefinitely for criticizing the league and the officials. Like I get it I get having that rule. I think this is very much abusing that rule. I think that's abusing the rule that you put in place. Like, yes, there's certain things about a league that you probably should not be out there saying, but I don't think this is anywhere close to crossing the line. And not that it took much research, but I looked, Hockey PEI is a branch of Hockey Canada, which doesn't surprise me. If I am Hockey Canada, I am looking at this and I am plainly embarrassed because we already know Hockey Canada is practically a boys club. Like they call it what it is. You know what I mean? I think they should be embarrassed by what has happened. And no longer than a day later, the HDA campaign comes up.
Do you want to go ahead and read this Westhead stuff then? Yeah.
So obviously there was the HDA campaign. And I don't know if you noticed, but the players were not wearing their NHL jerseys.
Oh, no.
So this is in here. This is from the Rick Westhead article. Akeem Aliou said the NHL repeatedly rejected requests to work with Budweiser Canada. By the way, Budweiser, a major sponsor for the NHL, and the HDA to create the spot. Quote, over a year ago, Budweiser reached out to the NHL and the NHLPA and told them about the spot and that it wanted to include current NHL players. Aliou said there were more than a dozen conversations, and in every one, the NHL said it didn't want to work with the HDA. So we're not allowed to be in any NHL branded gear in their spot. The league is saying the current guys like Wayne, you can't wear the jersey. The pettiness and smallness is so sad. It's another rock bottom for the NHL. Instead of NHL,
Wayne Simmons, right?
Yeah, Wayne Simmons. Sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Go on.
Instead of NHL jerseys, players in the ad wear black and white uniforms with the HDA's logo.
You know what? I didn't notice that. Obviously, I noticed it wasn't their thingy jerseys. I thought that was just a statement type thing, but that's another wrinkle in the NHL, isn't it? That's just unacceptable.
Why are they so stubborn about?
Because it's run by. I got to be careful what I say here, but look at Bettman and Daly for a second. Let's just look at not even years past. Let's just look at since the Bill Peters stuff onwards. It's weird. We shouldn't be surprised by that, but you still kind of are. It's again the thing with Kane. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Right. Like I want you to think about this for a second.
Okay. How
quickly did the NHLPA tweet about that they're going to file a grievance for Evander Kane?
Like that?
They don't snap,
but they can't.
Are they? Sorry. Are they or are they not a players' union?
They are.
What are they? Because they don't
Allegedly.
act like a players' union. Yeah, they don't act like a players' union. I thought this was a perfect opportunity for the NHLPA to be involved in something that I think can help grow the game of hockey. I want to read you the Wayne Simmons quote. I'm just pulling it up. I apologize. But I think it very much gets the point across of what the whole campaign is about. And now I cannot find this tweet. This is very upsetting. But essentially, it's about like, it's not, because I saw comments about like, you know, they're just trying to like, poor me. That's not the point. It's not about them. It's about what they're dealing with. They shouldn't have to deal with this. They really shouldn't.
I think it's because the league are probably too busy suing their insurance companies right now. That's a story that from Rick Westhead. I want to make a note. We have it in the doc. We're not talking about it yet because I feel like there's a lot coming. For those of you who don't know, I think it's 5 teams. Well, the league are suing insurance companies due to. Let me just read. This is the sort of header for the article. Is the NHL and 20 of its teams? Wow, I think 5 are suing 5 of their insurance providers, alleging the companies have breached contract by refusing to reimburse more than $1 billion worth of losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's something I want to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
It's in the doc. It's just I don't think there's a lot of detail. But again, it's maybe that's why, because they're too busy dealing with that, and that's going to make them money.
This is the quote from Wayne Simmons. This was from an Athletic article.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is not to tarnish the reputation of the game. Our goal is to make this game better, a safe space for everybody, and an all-encompassing game. Why is that so hard?
Mm-hmm. They just don't get it. I don't know if it's because they don't see profit in it, but that's how it feels. But I don't know, man. It's the $1 million question.
And Simmons was talking about enrolling his daughter in hockey, and how it was like, it's a troubling thing to do considering what he's had to endure and considering the lack of maturity from the NHL to own up to the fact that there is an issue there is an issue here. And I just don't understand why this is so hard to accept. Why is it like we're already having issues with getting more and more kids to play the game of hockey because it's ridiculously expensive. And then we're trying to do this and it's like, oh, well, no, we can't do this for whatever reason. It makes no sense to me.
All right, we're going to move on for now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's it. I'm done.
No, it's okay, man. That was good. So, bit of a sharp turn, but the rest of this is just hockey fun, so don't worry. Do you know what happens if Yaroslav Halak plays 2 more games?
No. No.
So, do you know how old he is?
Oh, does he have a 35+ contract?
He does. So,
oh boy.
If Yaroslav Halak plays 2 more games, he earns a $1.25 million bonus applied to the cap next year.
Oh my God.
By the way, his deal expires this season, so basically he's dead cap for next year. So apparently, the Canucks and Darren Dreger added to this. This is originally from Matthew Seker. I can't say his name properly. Sekeres.
Matt Sekeres.
Yes, he has the Sekeres show, right? But anyway, he first reported about that, and then Darren Dreger followed it up with the following tweet. This is interesting. We discussed it a bit on the show, so I poked around a bit. I believe the Canucks would consider trading Halak, mostly because Demko is likely to play a lot of games and the return should be decent for Yarrow. The bonus money likely part of the equation, but not the main reason. Okay, so we talked a lot about two goalies with Curtis. I think it was even after the show ended. Okay, Demko's good. Yeah, we know he's good, but that speaks to the cap hell that they are in, that they cannot afford to give a look. How funny is that? We can't play our backup goalie too much because he's going to screw our cap it next year. They're already at like $5 million using LTIR right now too.
Oh my God, yeah. There.
By the way, happy birthday, Bruce Boudreau.
Oh yeah, Bruce Boudreau's birthday. No, I mean it's kind of difficult for them. Like I don't think Jim Rutherford's job and whoever he decides to hire in the coming weeks or months, it's not going to be, I would say, an easy job, because I think there's some retooling that needs to be done there, along with re-signing some guys. Like I know Brock Besser is up next year, along with trying to fix this team. It's not going to be an easy job, and having that extra $1.25 million next year, I don't think is helpful any way you look at it.
I wonder if it changes hockey-related revenue wasn't going to take this cap hit. We were going to get that $1 million jump in the cap next year, but that's not going to happen. Speaking of money, though, the Athletic sold.
They did?
That's to the New York Times. People were low-key. We're going to talk about something kind of funny to do with this, because of the money aspect. But a lot of people were very critical about this. Did you see, like, the Athletic started as ripping newspapers and then they became one? People were ripping this. But anyway, so this is from Mark J. Barnes on Twitter. In the screenshot I took of this, Alex retweeted it. So there you go. It sold for around $550 million. You want to know what's funny about that, Alex?
What's that?
So how around 550? So you just want to round up, maybe it's 575 for the fun of it, right?
Okay.
So I know this is kind of, I'm not a big economics guy. I don't know a lot about money, but I just want to put this into perspective. The Athletic that's never made money, by the way.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not dissing them. I love the Athletic, and they're like the best hockey writers in the world. Like I love their stuff so much.
Yeah.
Like guys like Dom and like the front office confidence articles and all that. They're some of my favorite articles to read ever. So let's say they sold for $575 million, $25 million north of this report.
Okay.
They would have sold for the higher value of the Winnipeg Jets, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Ottawa Senators, the Buffalo Sabres, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Florida Panthers, and the Arizona Coyotes. Now, why do you mention that, Adam? Well, I'm happy you ask, because somehow the Arizona Coyotes value is probably going to go even lower. Because right before we started recording, Craig Morgan of The Athletic reported, per sources, the Coyotes do not currently have the votes in the Tempe City Council to approve their $1.7 billion arena and entertainment district proposal. Oh.
And there was something interesting in there that I thought we should bring up. Per those sources, there are 3 yes votes, 2 no votes, and 2 votes that are undecided, but leaning toward no after the Coyotes' recent failure to pay taxes and bills that came to light.
That is really funny. That is really funny. I feel bad for Coyotes fans, but I'm like, man, if in real life, you know what happens when you don't pay taxes? The tax man comes after you.
The tax man comes after you. And
Not even the Joker fights the IRS. You know that? You ever seen that clip on YouTube?
I have not, but you told me. You told me before.
The Joker pays his taxes, people. The Joker.
If the Joker pays his taxes, then you must pay your taxes. It's just
Exactly. You'd be a psychopath serial killer.
what a mess of a situation.
What happens? Because what's a real shame is I can't wait at the end of this that they go back to Glendale and just have to pay like double the price, which people are sort of speculating may happen. Let's go to Quebec.
Well, the thing is okay. Even let's say they sign this deal, right? The Coyotes Tempe Arena can go ahead. They still don't have somewhere to play for at least X amount of years. Like, how fast do you think these arena complexes are built? Like, it's not going to be done overnight. This is a year. Like, how many years did it take Seattle to build their arena? And Arizona in Tempe want to build this just big entertainment district.
Alex, you think you and I could do a better job running the Arizona Coyotes than?
I think about it sometimes.
Just give us the team. We don't have the money to pay for it, but you know.
I mean, like, if you go on my Twitter, the banner photo is me presenting the cup as the commissioner. So I do really think that was, shut up, Mike, for making that for me. But I do think we could do it.
Alex, tell me about Joe Thornton.
He is very close to the games played record.
And who holds that record?
Patrick Marleau.
When did he get that record?
Last year.
So Joe Thornton, I think, is now at 1,701 games because I think the Panthers played yesterday. They won. Yeah, they won in overtime. So I don't know if he 100% played, but assuming he's at 1,701 games played.
He is.
How far back is he of the record?
78 games.
That's insane.
And no one's talking about it, right? Like, remember when Patrick Marleau was approaching the record? It was such a big deal, except for like 3 Toronto reporters who decided, like, how is the WHA?
My Kane is up in the ground. No.
And it was like the ones you'd expect to. And it's like, imagine who would have thought within like a span of 2 years we would have had 2 guys break that record. It's incredible.
Indeed. And teammates.
Yeah.
Old teammates. Where is Patrick Marleau?
Back-to-back picks, were they not? Am I thinking?
I believe they were, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And then they both ended up in San Jose because
and then they both ended up in Toronto.
Yeah, funny enough.
Because the league is weird.
Because the NHL.
Yeah, they went 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm, they were? Good.
Yeah. Do you know who went third?
What team?
The LA Kings, 1997.
97. Oh, 97. I don't care. Who?
Olli Jokinen.
Oh.
Who?
Really?
Yeah. Who also had a 6-game stint with the Leafs, by the way. I just forgot about that.
Didn't you just stop trying? And they just kind of like, okay. Or am I thinking of Eric Brewer? There was a
bad year. I don't know.
It was a weird time. You know what else is kind of weird? Tuukka Rask has signed a PTO with the Bruins, not the Boston Bruins, with the Providence Bruins, to get some conditioning. And he was supposed to play, but a game between them and Lehigh Valley got pushed back. But we're just counting the days down to see him actually sign with the Bruins now. I love this. This is my favorite thing in the league right now.
It'll be so interesting to see what they do because they got 3 goalies. So I imagine Swayman's going to be the guy sent down.
Or taxi squad, right?
Because Merrick said it on 32
waivers,
Thoughts. No, he doesn't have to go through waivers, which means he can't be on the taxi squad. I believe Merrick said that on 32 Thoughts.
The dogs are getting really wild. Hopefully you didn't hear that.
No, didn't hear it at all.
Oh, thank goodness. The Jets tried to play in Saskatoon?
Saskatoon.
Are they the same place?
Saskatoon is in Saskatchewan.
Oh, I knew that.
Hey, Canadian geography.
They put out a feeler to their season tickets holders. Now, if the Habs came to me, a season ticket holder, and said, "Hey, Adam, how did you feel about us playing in Saskatoon?" I'd be like, "Well, I don't get to go to the game, so I don't care." I'd like to know what the results were. Anyway, I don't know. I think we know the details. Maybe there's some paperwork in that. It's not happening, but imagine if we had, it's creative, right?
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen it.
It would have been interesting because I believe Saskatchewan does not have the same type of restrictions as Manitoba and Ontario. So as soon as that report came out, Saskatchewan's like, yeah, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to have all these people in the same place, which was like,
if I'm a Saskatooner,
yeah,
a Saskatoon,
that's what we'll call them.
If I'm a Saskatoon,
yeah,
why in the world am I opening the door for this team staff, hundreds of people, to maybe not hundreds, but you know what I mean? Like, why am I going to allow this and their fans to flock to my Saska home, my Saska residence,
yeah,
my Saska land?
No, I think
Saskatoons is the title of this episode.
Saskatoons. Okay.
Saskatoons.
The Saskatoons.
Yes.
Okay. No, like I think you're right. Like, but at the same time, if I'm the NHL, I'm like, man, that's a smart idea. Let's play some games in Saskatchewan. Like,
What's
I think
outside the box thinking.
Yeah, like that's insane. Again, why Adam, Daniel, and I should run the NHL, but whatever. That's besides the point. It'd be interesting because I think it would you wouldn't have to postpone Winnipeg home games.
Mm-hmm.
Is essentially why they did it.
I would love to watch a Canadian team play hockey lately because it's been like Toronto and no one else.
Yeah, and Toronto and those games have just been awesome to watch.
I've got entertainment value out of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think again, like, are Montreal going on a road trip? Because I know Toronto.
Yeah. They're going on like a big one apparently now.
Oh, and they have no players. Okay.
So I think some guys are back, but it's not looking like at practice today there were still 5 defensemen. And because apparently they still have some players in the States that are stuck there.
Yeah, I saw
3, 6, 9, 12, 13 forwards. But 2 of them didn't have. 4 of them had no contact. Okay. Yes.
No, because we're getting to a point where I think Alan Walsh said it on the last episode of Agent Provocateur with Doug Armstrong that we're getting to a point where we're probably going to have to extend the season by a week or 2.
I hate that so much. Hate it so much. What can you do though? I thought you were about to say, because here's the thing with Montreal is you can't just, it's not a few players. Like at some point, the Habs cannot continue to play with half their team. Like shorthanded on a game that cannot continue to happen like it did against Florida. Anyway, shall we finish off by talking about some stuff from 32 Thoughts on Hockey Night in Canada? Yeah,
32 Thoughts headlines.
I hate it.
Is what I'm calling it.
So Boston apparently have interest in 2 members of the Arizona Coyotes, Lawson Krause, and who cares about that because they also have apparently, this is from the lads, the 32 Thoughts lads, Freeman and Merrick. You may have heard of them. Kind of our heroes. Reason that this show exists. They're also interested in bringing Phil Kessel back.
Just hurts. I wouldn't want to see it, but like, good, fine.
If he goes to the Bruins, do the Leafs just quit the season? Like, does Dubas resign right then and there because he's like, okay, well, there's the magic. I'm not going to win.
Yeah, no. If they play them in the first round, which would need some major magic, I would say, yeah, Kyle Dubas just resign. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to watch those 7 games or whatever.
Marner packs his bag and goes to Columbus.
Yeah, I'll take that $15 million or whatever the hell they were offering him.
So looking also stuff, this is from Merrick. About 10 teams have called the Coyotes about Jacob Chikrin. They're looking for a first rounder, a young player, and a high-end prospect. Again, sort of, you can kind of say similar-ish if Tuck was a little younger to the Eichel deal. Some of the teams he mentioned, the Ducks are rumored, the Blues, who seem to be in on everyone lately, and the LA Kings, which that makes a lot of sense, actually, because the Kings need D.
Yeah, they that's not their strong suit, I'd say, at the moment.
Their best defenseman is arguably Phil Deneau, who is a center.
Yeah.
Deneau effect. Let's go. Big fight and a goal last night. Let's go.
No, and
I reckon he had an assist. I'll see if he got a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Okay. No, that would be interesting. Like the Kings wasn't necessarily someone I was thinking of just because Chychrun's more offensive minded. And I think maybe the Kings could do with someone who's a little more defensively minded. But regardless, like those three teams in St. Louis and Anaheim as well, I really like that idea in bringing in Chychrun to the Ducks, because obviously they might be losing Hampus Lindholm to unrestricted free agency this year. And you're bringing in a guy who's 24. I think he's 24, around there. And with St. Louis, I think, was it you who brought up St. Louis for Chychrun last episode, Adam?
I don't want to take credit in case it was Daniel, but
I remember
I did because I said that. Yeah, he'd be their best D. I nailed it.
Yeah, you made the Parayko. You said put him next to Parayko, and it would work really well. So again, like it works.
Yeah, I'm not saying Jeff Merrick's source. He's 23, by the way.
23.
He's 24 in March.
Oh, okay, close.
He is a year older than me, and I can't stand it.
I hate seeing that too.
And then the Ducks. I just listen, get that done, and just everyone who fails to get him or Klingberg. We'll get to that in a second. Come get Ben Sherratt. Because here's the thing. Ben Sherratt. You like him. Come get him. John Klingberg requested a trade, but he didn't. So the way it was described on 32 Thoughts was that John Klingberg wants basically an 8-year deal around $64 million, right? And with contracts being stalled, or contract talks stalling a little bit, the word is that he would like a trade. His agent said, if you cannot get a deal sorted out, can you accommodate the trade for my client? So, and I think Klingberg has said it's not exactly a trade request, but okay, so you give me $64 million over 8 years, or you trade me. That sounds like a trade request.
That does sound like a trade request.
So I suggested I could think of Boston, Calgary, and I can't remember the last team. Like if I don't see Boston getting him and like extending him, because they're going to be questionable after this year. But can you think of any teams you'd like to see for Klingberg?
I don't know off the top of my head. Like, you know who would the Flyers, because that's the only type of defenseman they go after. Yeah. Like, you have to look at it from, okay, are you getting him just to stay for the year, or are you getting him and then you're going to extend him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd go for a run. If you're Boston, last hurrah. Why not? If you're Pittsburgh, could you imagine Pittsburgh with Letang and Klingberg? Pretty good.
I missed a team. The Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay, so I was joking with Mike. I'm like, they could get him just because they love acquiring every defenseman. If there's a defenseman available, just say Carolina.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense, but they just do it because they want to. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's everything.
I believe so.
But beside that, did you know that Achiri Lehkonen statistically is amazing?
You said that.
Patrick tweet about something.
Oh.
Lehkonen for Selke, I can get behind that. I think you could get. I think Carolina would be a good fit for Lehkonen, actually. That's an analytical team that understands that player's value.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex.
Adam.
Did you enjoy the show?
Yeah, I did. Did you enjoy the show?
I did. So we've already done this, but to players, to people that have not done this, if you enjoyed the show, check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts. iTunes, that's not a thing anymore. Apple Podcasts, which just keeps updating and ruining itself. God, I love refreshing every day, but for some reason on Saturday it gives me every episode of Jeff Merrick this week.
Oh, really?
Because it sucks, and you can't multi-select to delete. You have to do individually swipe. It's awful. Spotify, We're on Spotify video. Do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. YouTube for the video portion. Thank you again to Curtis for coming on. All his gobs will be linked in the description below. Alex deals with all that because he actually works on the show. Remember, Alex, we gotta bleep that one part out.
Yep.
Beside that, Saskatoons.
Saskatoons.
Maybe you can find like an animated thing of Connor Hellebuck.
Sure.
Is he from? Because I think he's from Saskatoon. But
okay.
We will see. Check out the show's TikTok and our social medias as well as the shows and all that stuff. People like TikTok. We like TikTok.
I think we're 11 followers away. I'm just double checking.
Okay.
Wait.
Alex is looking at things, people.
11 followers away from 300, so that would be nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Can't complain.
That's cool. So go do that. Okay. Bye.